I've been playing a new game called Tiny Glade where you could build castles and cozy little cottages, and I have been absolutely addicted. I had an idea of building a real-life castle inside the game, specifically Neuschwanstein Castle from Germany. In German that would be Neuschwanstein, and it's unique, it's massive, and it's a castle I would love to visit one day. Despite the scale of it, it seemed possible to recreate it since the game gives you a good amount of customization options, from roof shape and tower circumference to stone textures and window shingles. And so my challenge began. I had a huge empty square that I had to somehow fit an entire castle into. I worked at an angle to maximize the space and started off by laying down land since the castle sits on top of a mountain. This was the first step that I took, but I already messed up, and you'll see why later on. I started with the largest building, which is more or less the main building in the castle. Needless to say, Google Earth was my best friend for this entire build, because I was able to get a three-dimensional bird's eye view of the whole site. And even though it was poor quality, it was also very, very useful. If I was any good at math, I would totally look up like the dimensions and like the scale of the place, of like all the walls and towers, and I would convert it into a ratio that would fit in the game. But I'm not good at math. So instead, I used the best tool ever invented, the human eyeball. So for all the measurements, I basically eyeballed everything in relation to Google Earth. I brought the main section up to a height that I liked and would use that as a base to measure all the rest of the buildings. There's only a certain height that a building can reach in this game, so to bypass that, I would place one or even two buildings below it, depending on how tall I wanted it. And then I would match the width and the length so it looks like one whole construction. It was a lot of trial and error, which scared me because you can't delete things, or maybe I just don't know how to yet. You could only undo the last thing you did. I used Control-Z a lot. A lot. Building the south-facing side of the castle was easy because there were so many reference photos of this side. It's the side that gets photographed the most, apparently. I guess it's the best looking side because there were very few in good quality of the north/northwest side of the castle. A portion on the south facing side hangs off the mountain, and the land that I put down fit perfectly for now. As this montage goes, I'll list some fun facts about the castle so you don't get bored. The castle was built for only one man by the name of Ludwig II, or Ludwig II, or does that make him a junior? I'm not sure. Anyways, it began construction in 1869 and took about 20 years to finish, and opened to the public in 1890. Walt Disney actually took a trip to Europe one year and visited Neuschwanstein Castle, which he later used as inspiration for Cinderella's castle. Disney loves to send copyright strikes and issue DMCA takedowns, but did the good people over at Neuschwanstein ever think about doing that to them for stealing the likeness of the castle? It's a thought, it's an idea. Anyways, here is the part where my past mistakes caught up with my present self. The land I laid wasn't fitting, so I had to remove it and start over, which made awkward gaps in the buildings. Thankfully, it was an easy fix that scared me more in the idea of it than the execution of it. I also adjusted the erosion of the cliffs, which made it appear steeper than what it actually was. I added a grassy section and left room for trees that I would eventually plant. All was good until I encountered another problem. I was running out of room, so the entrance was tighter than I wanted. It was hugging the border of the map limits, but ultimately everything fit. For the entrance, you're able to create pathways through the building to create arches. So later on, when you explore this in first person, you're able to walk through it like you normally would in real life. However, with 1,000 less people. Next up was the courtyard, which ended up fitting perfectly without even measuring anything, really. Thank you, human eyeball. One thing that did give me problems were the stairs. There are no stairs in this game. Kinda. You're able to make small steps with the pathway tool, so I tried making a huge bundle of small platforms, which failed, but in the end, I kept working on it and made something that looked nice and was functional in first person, yet not entirely accurate to the real-life courtyard. A lot of this build was just adjusting height in relation to other buildings and what was seen on Google Earth. Some of the smaller pieces were difficult to get right. It wasn't exactly a high-definition scan of the site, but it served its purpose. Even when I thought I finished laying down all the buildings, there were tiny areas that I forgot about, or portions that I wanted to add more detail to. So once the geometry was all finished, that's a math word for you. See, I know a little bit of math. It was time to move on to the easy part, which was texturing. The default colors of buildings in this game are white, which is the color of the castle, so I didn't have to change much. I did have to change the roof colors, and I faced a design issue. At first I thought the roofs looked black, so I made them all black. But then I noticed in some of the reference photos that there were a few blue ones, so I made some blue. And then I noticed an inconsistency in photos of the castle. Some photos show blue roofs while others show black roofs. You see, with different exposures and color grading and lighting, things could look so different from what they are in real life. Having never been to Neuschwanstein Castle, I didn't know what the truth was. This led me down a short-lived rabbit hole to a LEGO forum post where someone mentioned how the roofs are actually a dark, deep blue. I didn't have a dark, deep blue in my Tiny Glade color palette, so I just decided on blue. With that finished, I moved on to the entrance, which was red. However, now that I finished recording, I have seen some photos where it's actually a dark yellow/orange, depending on who you are. Speaking of yellow, some portions of the main building were this color, which I ultimately decided on a stone texture instead because it blended better with the rest of the buildings. The next part took me to the furthest reaches of Dante's Inferno. Adding windows. I looked up how many windows were on this bad boy, and Google said 664. This was the most tedious section, and I don't believe it's the most entertaining to watch, so I'll cut to the chase. Tiny Glade gives you two types of windows, square and oval. There are also tiny archer slits that I used in various areas. There are also 3 sizes of windows, which I used all around in different ways, depending on what fit and what was accurate. I was glad because I was able to fit every window/archway seen from Google Earth onto the castle in the game, except for 2 areas where I had to compromise a window for the sake of space. Other than that, everything was lined up with the correct amount of rows and columns. Now, was this actually 664 windows? Probably not. I don't know, and I don't really feel like counting them. My guess is no, but the total number probably includes windows that you can't even distinguish on Google Earth. I'm just happy everything looks nice. To make the map look even nicer, I added a road that is not necessarily accurate in depth, and lots of trees to cover the fact that this castle isn't on top of a mountain. I also put up the design on the main building, which depicts St. George and a dragon, I think? But instead I used a sheep, because sheeps are cool. Und jetzt, das Schloss ist endlich fertig. The castle is done, and I am very proud of my work. I think the scale looks correct and the detail is nice. It took me about 7 hours to build everything, which is not that bad. I feel like I know the outside of this castle so well now, and would love to see what's on the inside. I think from pictures that I've seen, it's very fancy looking, very elegant. Here's a quick walkthrough in first person, and with that, I want to thank you all for watching. This was a different video from my normal content, so please let me know if you liked it. I'll see you all in the next video, whatever that may be. Goodbye, everyone. Auf Wiedersehen. Take care. Goodbye.